everybody. Welcome to Score's new YouTube podcast business expert interview bonanza. We should probably come up with a better name. We are excited today to be talking about a super, super important topic, which is mental health and business ownership. It is one that is, we'll call it trending a little bit, but it is something that has been often overlooked for the concept of hustling and grinding and just putting your head down and getting it done. So today we want to talk to Jenny Emerson. Jenny, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited about being here.
Yeah, so Jenny is a transitions coach, and she is going to talk to us about several red flag, key indicator, what do you want to call them, Jenny? Like pitfalls? What do we call these? Pain points, Jenny?
That might be a great way, or just like 3 key things that come up for entrepreneurs. Like, I don't know one entrepreneur that hasn't hit this, hasn't hit any of these 3 things.
The emotional wall of entrepreneurship. Exactly. So Jenny, just to get our audience familiar, I want to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, because we want to know why we're talking about mental health today.
Thanks so much. So I have a previous career of being a psychotherapist and did that for about 12 years. And now I serve as a transitions coach. And I am blending these two, helping folks when they are ready to make some type of career change or even major life change, and navigating all the mindset stuff that comes up, and how to overcome this and when to tackle that, those kinds of big questions that happen in the entrepreneurial world.
Absolutely. And full disclosure to our audience, Jenny was my psychotherapist for the past 2 years. And I am sad that she is leaving, but she is doing amazing work. And I am excited to see how she helps people, because one of the things that sort of spurred this call when we started this project was that my mental health as a business owner was a highly talked about topic in our sessions, right? So like people think of psychotherapy or therapy as being kind of personal, but when you are a business owner, man, your business and all of the emotional, like just roller coaster things that come into that impact your personal life and vice versa, right?
Mm-hmm. And as the leader of your business, people are watching you. And so there's that delicate balance of being transparent and being authentic with your team, but then also being responsible for the one who always has the positive outlook and always has that, we can do this, that go get them mentality. So it's a lot for an entrepreneur to carry.
Absolutely. So one of the things when you and I first started working together, and then as I'm coaching people in SCORE as a mentor, one of the things that we hear a lot, some people call it imposter syndrome, but it doesn't even go so far as imposter syndrome. Sometimes it just starts with, can I even do this? Is this something that I can accomplish? Like, I have a full-time job, I have a family, I have kids, I have, maybe parents I'm taking care of. I don't have the money to start a bakery in my kitchen. Like, what are you talking about, right? And so that overwhelm is almost instantaneous when you decide to start a business. It's, can I even do this? And you experience that a lot with your clients, right?
Yes. And I mean, I've even had it as my own, my own private practice, trying to do it out on my own. So it's natural. That's the first thing I want to say. It's natural and normal for that question to come up. So that doesn't mean you're less skilled, less talented, less knowledgeable than any other entrepreneur out there. It just means you're normal. So welcome to the club.
Join us. Join us in this sea of self-doubt.
But I want to encourage you to use that question as curiosity instead of doubt. And so you change the tone of how you ask yourself that question. You change the inflection around it. It's like, instead of going from, can I even do this? It's like, can I do this? And it's, let me see what I can do.
It's a challenge. Yeah.
Yes. And here's the thing. If you're not failing somewhere along the way, then you're not trying.
Yeah.
So when something happens and you feel like, oh, I made a mistake by going with that vendor, or I wish I had hired someone with different skill sets, that's okay. You can't know something until you learn it.
Uh-huh.
And so because you might have made a decision that didn't work out the best doesn't mean you can't do this. It just means you had something to learn in that
Yeah.
experience, in that segment of your business. So something happened, and maybe that employee didn't work out. Okay, so now you've learned that. Next, and just keep going on instead of letting this, oh no, I keep making bad decisions, or oh no, I don't know how to choose employees, or I don't know how to, work with vendors. No, you just had something to learn. That's all there is to it.
That's it. Yeah. I read this of, the Pinterest has an amazing wealth of little, quotes that have been graphically designed for you to print and hang on your, your refrigerator and your computer screen. And one of them is similar. It's forgive yourself for what you didn't know. And so oftentimes, and I do this as well, I hold myself responsible or accountable for a decision I should have made based on information I didn't know until later. Right. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of that, like, in a more layman's terms, it's like, you play the cards you have. Right. And then
Mm-hmm.
when you get more cards or different cards, you maybe do something different. Right. So they have, entire what gambling tournaments on it. They have whole poker tournaments on this whole concept. So, but I think that's the can I even do this? One of the things that we were talking about in some of our other shows is comparison, and how comparison is the thief of joy, right? And so for me, a lot of times that can I even do this becomes where I'm at versus where I perceive other people or other businesses to be. And it seems so far away or so far ahead or so much higher or better than what I'm doing that it becomes challenging to stay focused on the curiosity because I'm comparing myself to what I think should be. Right? Can you speak to that a little bit and some ways that we can sort of frame our mindset?
So it's interesting you bring that up because I have a magnet on my refrigerator that says, "Thou shalt not compare thyself to others on the internet." And so I encourage.
There's a lot of refrigerator. Actually, we're talking about refrigerators a lot more in this podcast than we normally do. Yeah.
Um, and so I probably should put that like on my phone or right next to my laptop, instead of on the refrigerator. But that is a golden rule. Golden rule. Not comparing yourself to others on the internet or even, in your networking circles.
Yeah.
So it's okay to look at others and see where they are. And it's okay to long to be where they are. But when you use that to diminish where you are, then you've skewed it. And I want to encourage you to try to, like, when you catch yourself like, okay, I wish I was like, Alex over here. His company's already making the amount of sales I long to. Like, okay, then I'm going to watch Alex.
Sure.
And I'm going to learn from Alex instead of judge myself based on Alex.
We in the marketing world, we call it modeling. So
Yes.
instead of calling it plagiarism or being a copycat, we call it modeling. It makes it sound fancier. It's basically just copying. It's saying what you said, right? Like, I see what that person is doing. How are they doing it? How can I reverse engineer and find, the pieces or the parts or the activities or I'm not doing X and that person is, and maybe that would be something for me to try. Yeah.
And don't forget, there's someone behind you looking at you, wanting to be at your spot.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you think about it, there's somebody, maybe you've been open a year or two, and there's somebody back in the idea phase.
Yeah.
Then they're like, oh, I wish I could be like her. Look at what all she's got going on. Can I do it like she does? Am I smart as she is, or am I as crafty and skilled? And so it goes both ways.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. And one of the things, that when we're talking about growth and comparison and all those kind of things, one of my least favorite tropes about entrepreneurship is the hustle and the grind and the, 10, you got 10x everything in your life. And this concept that in order to be successful and happy, and I think that depends on how you define success, right? But what we're talking about here is mental health. So like your sanity and your happiness and your peace of mind, right? And enjoying your life comprehensively. A lot of the things that you read are you got to get up at 4 a.m. so that you beat everybody else, and the early bird gets the worm, and then you've got to, rush to work out and rush to have lunch or rush all these things. We got to have all these meetings and all the planning and all of the doing. And it's just not sustainable to live at that level all the time. And Jenny, because I've tried it. I have a whole spreadsheet that outlines the minute to minute of my day in the hopes that I can grind my way into success. And it's not feasible, right? Like, it doesn't mean that, like, being more efficient won't help you, but, like, that hustle and grind 100% of the time is just not an achievable model. So when we're comparing to other people, a lot of times what we're seeing is that facade, right? Of this is what I'm doing all the time. I'm hustling and I'm grinding and I'm blah, blah, blah. When in reality, their business might not be doing that well. Or maybe their personal life is in shambles, right? So like, I think that there's something to talk about there around the choices that we make for ourselves and how we perceive those to be a reflection of success. Does that make sense? Yeah. How do you see that happening or unfolding for business owners?
So I like that you mentioned you can't keep it up. It's not sustainable. And I always encourage business owners to, when you're getting started, make a list of what are your values. And is family time one of those values, or is personal time to be, maybe you're a runner and you really enjoy competing in marathons. Then training, I would imagine, is a value to you. And so how do you continue being a runner and a successful business owner, launching this business or keeping it going? So if you start with your values and then plan your day and your life accordingly, things will fall into place. The self-help section, the business self-help section in Barnes & Noble will tell you otherwise.
Yes.
But I disagree.
It's a very large section. I have seen it and then walked away from it. I'm like, no, I don't have the capacity for that right now.
Right. And you got to remember, those authors are looking for a book title that will get you to pick that up and, and for you to judge yourself. So you'll get their book and you'll change, according to their method.
The formula, yeah.
But more and more studies are being done about productivity and effectiveness at work. And they're learning that this whole 4 a.m. to 7 p.m. is not really productive. You're very busy doing busy work, but you're not successful or doing productive work a lot of times. And so when I encourage my clients to start with your value system and then plan and schedule your day. There may be times in your day you're going to have to hustle and grind. Okay, have that blocked out and know that you have that scheduled, like, from 2 to 4. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because there is some truth to entrepreneurship that there's, times we really have to push. But it's not true. I really do not believe it's not true that you have to push 24/7, 6 years straight. If you're doing that, you're not delegating well. You're not living your value system. You're not trusting your employees. And that puts you back. Did you hire properly? And so all, things build upon each other.
Yeah.
And so I can't stress enough to start with your value system. When you start planning to open a business, get your values down on paper where you can see them constantly. Yeah. It will navigate everything else.
Yeah. Well, and I like that idea of, for lack of a better term, like you're ranking what's important to you. And again, I started my own business almost 8 years ago. It was just me. I was on unemployment at the time. I was clinically depressed. I was having panic attacks. And it was something where, again, on paper, you're talking about on paper, you have to do everything you can to just pay the bills, right? And we want to acknowledge that on the show, that like, you can read those self-help books and they're going to give you this idyllic situation of like what you're like, but like sometimes you just have to get things done because you have to get the money because you have to pay the bills, right? And I've been in that position, but then to your point, the sustainability, like if that continues for an extensive period of time, we need to be evaluating other things. And that kind of brings me to a nice transition. You mentioned in their delegation. And so, there are a lot of our score clients that are solopreneurs, right? They're a one-stop shop, or not one-stop, one-man band, I think is the better. It's like, it's just me, right? And, maybe they have aspirations of growing bigger. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just want it to be them. But they need to leverage or be more effective with their time so that they can raise their prices or pick their clients, right? There's always a way to grow. But one of the things that I think a lot of people struggle with is what you just mentioned, which is this idea that I have to do everything because I'm the best at it, or I'm the only one who can do it, right? And then what that leads to is sort of this roller coaster of emotion where it's, I have to be doing all the things and there's so much to do. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then there's like, oh my God, not enough is happening. We don't have enough business coming in. I can't afford to hire anyone or train anybody. We don't have that. And then, oh my God, I have to do everything I have to do. For those of you who are listening to the podcast, by the way, I'm making this really amazing roller coaster gesture with my hand to emulate.
Very high dramatic feels on those roller coasters.
So much drama over here on YouTube. You should check it out, right? So this roller coaster of doing, again, I joke, like these are all things that you and I have talked about during our session because I feel this cycle of just like do all the things all at once. And then it's like nothing's happening. Oh my God, nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Oh my God, too much is happening, right? And so like, how do we learn to balance that when we're trying to grow? Because it feels like growth should be an activity. It should be something we're doing.
So some key points in that is learn to have a new definition of balance. So I'm sure every business owner has learned or is in the process of learning that balance doesn't always equal 50-50. Sometimes it's 90-10, and that's the appropriate balance for where you're at, especially those solopreneurs just getting started like you were talking about earlier. And then it grows to 70-30, and then it grows to 60-40. And then, have some moments of 50-50, and you're like, ooh, look at this, And but then, if you're talking about, we can get in that place of, oh, I'm not working as hard. So then, oh, my goodness, then nothing's happening. We're not going to make it if I'm not grinding it out. I should be doing something different. Doing more. Well, there's a time of activity that is happening that you're not doing. The greatest example I can give for this is when we plant a seed in the soil, we don't see what's happening underneath the soil, but that seed is working, right? We've nourished it with water, good soil, fertilizer, put it in the appropriate amount of sunlight, all those kinds of things. And so
I think you're highly overestimating my ability to grow plants, Jay. That is the formula, but like it doesn't usually work out like that. But yes, I will go with the metaphor.
Right, let's go with the metaphor. And so we don't go digging down in the soil to see if the seed has broken open for the stem to start growing. We just go and trust, and there's, for those of us who have a black thumb instead of a green thumb, myself included, I've killed an aloe vera plant. It's so bad. Yeah. So you just trust, and some of us hope and pray, throw a little dash of hope in there as well. And so that's how it is in business. There are times that you're going to be pushing it. You're going to be going. And then there's times that all that work you've done has to marinate, or other people have to do their part. And so you find yourself more still than you've been. And it can cause a little bit of panic sometimes. And business owners like, oh my gosh, I should be doing something. Like, no, you've done the work. Now let the fruit come to you.
Yeah. Those other people, I think, you mentioned vendors, but like for me, those other people often are my employees. And that's where some of that comes in, where I go, I trust that they're going to get it done, but because I'm not doing anything, it feels like I've just left them. I've just left them, I've abandoned them, right? And they're just like out there doing things on their own. And like, what does that mean? But like you also mentioned, that can be strategic partners. It can be people that you've networked with. Like if you're trying to sell, like maybe there are people that are out there that are considering using you. We always have a big rush at budget season in Q4, right? So it's like in the summer, we can have a very quiet quarter. And then all of a sudden, everybody and their brother needs marketing yesterday in Q4 because of all the networking that I did during the summer. So it's not just the hiring of employees to do the things for you. I think to your point, there's other influences and people in the world that are also impacting your business.
And I'd like for us to talk about that employee piece just a little bit as well, in addition to what you just shared. That letting them do it and taking those deep breaths and realize it may not get done how you would have done it or in the same order as you would have done it, or look exactly like you have done it. But if they're delivering the results that you desire, then it's a growth opportunity for an entrepreneur to stand back and let their employees do it. Because they're never going to learn until you get your hands off. You got to do that. But it's a delicate balance that owners and business managers have to do. It's like I'm fine line of standing close, so I'm available if they have questions. I'm a little bit hovering, but I'm back enough to where I don't feel like I'm hovering, and they don't think I'm down their throat
You're
about it.
accessible, but you're not like micromanaging.
Yes. And that's a dance. That is a dance.
Yeah.
So you'll be 2 steps in, and then you'll cha-cha-cha back. And then you'll come back in.
Jenny is also estimating my dance skills, everybody. Like, clearly, yeah. I'm to be a metaphorical entrepreneur with all these planting of seeds and dancing around. Yeah. So, Jenny, one of the things that I think is interesting is that you're just talking about like they have to have the opportunity to learn. And I think that that's really scary for a lot of business owners. When I started my business, it was me going to a client and saying, I will do these things for you. I'm going to do your marketing strategy and your social media and whatever, your emails or whatever, right? I'm going to physically do that from top to bottom. And then I had 17, 20 clients. I can't do all that. I can't physically do it all. So I had to hire someone. And what I realized was that person had to do what I was doing close enough. Like you said, the result had to be there because the client was used to what I had sold them. So you couldn't just come in and say, this brand new person is going to make a totally different email blast. It had to be almost the exact same thing that I would have made. Otherwise, I wasn't delivering what I had sold. So I think that the challenge there for me was, how do I teach them and get them to get that same result, right, without being micromanaging? And we're doing a lot of metaphors today. I often joke with my team now that their growth is like me teaching a child to tie their shoes. The result is going to be the same, right? There are a couple of different methodologies to tying your shoes, and you can talk amongst yourselves and quiz your family to see like what the preferred methodology is. It like crossover and pull through? Is it bunny ears? Is it through the rabbit hole? There's all kinds of ways, right? But there's at least a few different ways to get the same result of tying your shoes. And it's a balance, right? Between let me show you several times. I'm going to do it while you watch. And then so there's like a shadowing and an observation period. And then there's okay, now you try to do it. And I'm going to help offer suggestions on how you can do it, right? Like you're not quite there, try to pull it through, that kind of thing. And then there's the step back where you are accessible, but you're not breathing down their neck, but you're watching, right? You're like out of the corner of your eye. You're like, are you tying your shoes right? And then it becomes, well, now you can tie your shoes. And maybe they get there a little differently, and maybe it's a little bit, it's not exactly as precise as you would have done it, but the shoes got tied. You got out the door, right? And so I think that there's a way when you're talking about how do you hand things off, to me, if there's not that plan of how are we going to do it, it becomes so ambiguous or amorphous that it's scary. How long am I going to have to teach you to do something before you do it the way I want you to do it, or you reach that same result? So like, can you speak to that a little bit? Like, how do you recommend people work with teams a little bit more strategically so that there's some measurable result there?
What came to mind as you were sharing all that, I was like, you're going to have to hire people that are willing to drink the Kool-Aid, for another metaphor for us.
We have Kool-Aid. We love it. It's very delicious.
So it's, it's like that they believe in your mission and they share your desired goal, like in your case, to do really good marketing for your clients. They desire for your clients' businesses to be successful, like in your situation. And so I know that takes some work, and I know it takes time finding those people. But creating that environment in your company to where they want the company to be successful, it's not just a job. And then wanting, like in your case, their clients to be successful, because that means your company is successful. And then people like to be recognized for what they did. And so if you notice that they have learned this new skill, and they're starting to get proficient at it, let them know that you've seen that. It doesn't have to be a big, huge to do. Just, as you're passing by, hey, great job on the email blast for our new client. Love the language. I think it's going to work great for them, whatever the situation may be. And so that helps them, have some more confidence in their skills and get excited about doing the next activity and learning the next task. And so it comes down to really environment and mission.
It's the culture of your company to teach, essentially. Yeah.
And I know in the moment, it feels like it takes a lot of time to teach your team. Because it does. Let's get honest. You have to remember the word investment. Teaching your team is an investment in your company. You make it now, you plant that seed now, and you're watering it and you're fertilizing it and you're moving it around in the sun every time you teach them something new, every time you support them in learning. And so that down the road, they're producing the fruit for you and you're not having to handhold so much. And because they know they're valued and they're respected and they believe in what your company's doing, they're going to be satisfied employees for the most part. And then that is when your investment pays off and you're not having to be so hands-on and you're not having to constantly peek around the corner, see how they're tying the shoe without them knowing you're watching them tie the shoe, those kinds of things you do with children. And so I just encourage entrepreneurs to remember the word investment.
And it can be worth it. Balance. So to circle back, if you start your business and it's you and you're hustling and grinding and you're doing the things you need to do, eventually, whether it be employees, contractors, strategic partners, lowering the number of clients you have and increasing your prices, selective packaging, that kind of thing. All of this is to help you get to that mental health balance of you're not just running every day where you've got that 90-10 you talked about. This is what should start to balance you to where you have more time for the things that you find valuable, more of the things you enjoy, and less of those hard grind kind of weeks where it's like, just going to have to put in 14, 16 hours a day for the next 6 weeks. Like, no, that, it should help balance that out, right? And then when you've got that culture that you're paying attention to, it becomes a job and a group of people that you want to be working with, not something where you're going, I have to tolerate the hustle and the grind and the overwhelm and the exhaustion and the mental health breakdown so that I can afford or fuel or fund or have time for my life sometimes. When we're finding this balance, right, and then we're moving into maybe we're working more with other people, be them inside or outside the company, what you just talked about, Jenny, is investment. it's your time and it's your money, it's your business. But like when you own a company, when you're an entrepreneur, it is also your heart. Like just full out. Like I joke all the time. I get verklempt every time I talk about my team. Like, you see the tears. Like my team are like my family. Like I have invested so much in them. They've invested so much in me and my company and in each other. It feels really personal. And so I know right now we're going through this great resignation. It's so hard to find good people. Like everybody is trying to figure out how do I make a company culture that someone wants to be a part of, but it feels so personal, right? So business in the past has been very like, I have this job, I hire someone to do it, they're leaving, I hire someone else to do it. But now it's not always an option. Like sometimes you have to massage it a little bit. And what happens is when you make that investment and then it doesn't pay off, when someone leaves you, when they can't grow to the level you need them to be at, it hurts. Like it hurts emotionally, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because you do pour yourself into these people. And so it's someone you've poured your time, attention, even a degree of affection in the sense of support and cheerleading and, and being there when they get discouraged and that kind of affection is what I mean. And so you pour into them and then it just doesn't work out. And so a part of you, a little part of your heart and soul, mind and all these kind of things that we pour into our businesses leaves. And that's hard. And so there's a degree to which I'm going to use the word grief. We grieve that a little bit with our disappointment, our sadness, our frustration. That's normal. And then you were talking about it being personal. I believe we have to hold opposites when it comes to that. There's a way that this business is personal. It's you, it's yours. It's possibly your name even, It is your baby, your heart and soul, your dream. And then at the same time, when, let's say, like for this scenario, this employee doesn't work out, it's not personal. Yeah, it's business. And in business, sometimes things don't work out, as in life, in relationships, and all kinds of things. And so it's like, okay, but those, I hold both those, and then when is it which? That's a choice you have to make. I mean, you have to really evaluate it. And you can choose, do I take this personally? Or do I just realize this is a moment in my business when something just didn't work out? It feels personal, but it isn't. And so we have to hold opposites.
I think it's a good thing to remember. I think I can speak from experience, it's just hard to do in practice, right? Because if you've invested in somebody and you feel like, hey, this person is my friend, maybe you're not spending every holiday together with your employees, but like there's a friendly nature to the relationship, even vendors. I mean, we've had situations where we meet someone in a networking group, I met someone and they're like, yeah, I can definitely do that, I can do this specialized service. Like for me, it'd be like web development or digital ads or, something really hyper specialized that we don't hire full time. We want to work with a strategic partner. And they start out and it's really great because they're trying to earn your business. And you figure out how to work together and be efficient. And like, we're going to do so many projects and it's going to be amazing. And then somewhere in the middle, there's complacency sets in. And instead of just being over the top, like super fun, like getting back to you and like doing as much as they can to like get the project done, it's like, oh, hey, I'm sorry I missed our meeting. I was, prospecting. And you're like, but I'm already here and we already have a project, right? And so then like, the relationship kind of becomes complacent, kind of deteriorates. And even that is hard. So even when someone isn't doing a great job, it's not that they've, completely screwed you over or it's hard to go back to people sometimes and have those difficult conversations and say, I don't think this is good. I don't think this is what I need, right? Like, I think that we need to move on and find somebody else, even if it's the other person's lack of performance or whatever. Sometimes it's just like you said, it's your name on it and it can feel hard.
It can. And in the scenario you just mentioned, it's like you were wooed. Like if we were in a dating relationship, this person wooed you and they courted you and they got you to choose them. And you do. And things are moving along. And then all of a sudden, wait, hold on. I missed our meeting because I was on a different dating app looking,
Yeah.
It's like dating. It's like that. And you're like, hold up. I'm going to need you to stop right there, And so that can hurt.
Yeah.
That can be disappointing. And so those are tough conversations. And it can get so frustrating. Like, why do I have to have this tough conversation? We were, things were good. And so that's part of that roller coaster that we talked about in the beginning. We're going back, kind of making a full circle here. There are times that we do get disappointed and we get hurt. And it's not personal. That person's choices to run their business in that manner, poor choices, I think, that's how you're going to treat your clients. It's not about you. It's about their inability to run their business well and in a timely manner. And that takes some heavy lifting emotional work. I mean, you were in the gym benching some massive weights on that one to learn how to not take everything so personal.
Well, I think when we're talking about, your overall mental health as a business owner, you already can have self-doubt, which we're going to call curiosity from now on, right? So I'm already curious about whether I can do this or not. And part of that challenge is figuring out that roller coaster of doing, right? So I'm going to have things where I'm just doing a lot, and then I'm waiting for those plants to, be ready for harvest, and maybe planting other plants in a different area, but trusting that those things are gonna, are gonna crop up. And then realizing that all of it is not personal. And I think that there's sort of a mindset around all of this. And for me, Jenny, it always starts with awareness. And so all of these things that you've detailed today as being major pain points of entrepreneurs and business owners, it starts with your mindset of awareness, which is when I start to feel funky, when I'm projecting my negative emotions, when I'm micromanaging my team because I'm stressed out, when I'm bringing my work into my personal life because it's just so overwhelming, whatever those things are, when you feel funky, can you take a step back for a moment and be aware and say, ooh, I'm feeling weird. I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling angry. I'm feeling whatever, and identify that emotion and then figure out where it's coming from well enough to address it. And I think that for me, one of the reasons I started, coming to see you as a therapist, and I have coaches and things like that, is that there's so much value in identifying it and being able to talk to somebody about it. So one of the things I would love is can you share some ideas? I know that you're a transitions coach, but where are some of the places, or who are some of the people, what are the coping mechanisms for some of these things where people can say, oh, I listen to this podcast. I am now currently aware that in this moment, I am having an existential crisis over the fact that I am not doing enough, or I have been grinding and hustling 24/7 for 4 years. What are the resources for the help there?
So the resources are varied, and that's great because you might need different folks at different points in your growth and your process. SCORE, I think, is a great resource, which, you're mentoring with. Having that mentor, having that person that's a few steps ahead of you that can say, hey, yeah, I've been there. Here's how I handled it. Here's some great ideas for you to try. Always great. I'm a huge believer in mentors. Find one somewhere and invest in them, and they will invest in you.
Snatch them up off the street, and you
just drive down the road and you just the window and you just pull one in your car. No.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't do that. We are not advising that. That is definitely a joke. Yeah. Disclaimer. Yeah.
Yes. We just. So SCORE, other places like that, or other people in your industry or in your networking groups, wherever, someone that would be who you would consider a role model somewhere, someone that has the kind of business or kind of lifestyle that you're trying to create. Those are people to look towards.
what if you see somebody on the internet that you're comparing yourself to, and instead of feeling diminished, you reach out to that person and say, hey, I'd love to partner with you. I'd love for you to mentor me. I would love to connect with you in your networking groups or something like that, right? Like, instead of coming at it as competition, how do you see it as a potential resource?
Great idea. And that's how we move to curiosity. I'm curious what I could learn from them instead of, oh, they're always going to be ahead of me, or, that kind of thing. So mentorship is one great resource. I am a firm believer in therapy, obviously. And so how do you know if you need a therapist, if you need a coach? So a therapist is going to help you process. If you notice a pattern of emotions coming up, that tells me that there's something, there's a whole brain science. Yeah. That tells me that there's something in your life that probably needs to be processed out. And so what a therapist can do is help you sort through that and heal that so that you're stronger in your interactions with your team, your vendors, your business. You're stronger in your interactions with yourself, your relationship with yourself, things like that. So that's the therapy realm. Coaches are more geared towards future forward. And so that is like, I have this goal that I'm trying to get towards, or I know that I want to, like in my situation as a transitions coach, a lot of my folks don't even know where they want to go, but they know they're ready to end something now, or something for them has ended. Relationship, kids moved out of the house, whatever it may be, business closed due to COVID, something like that. And so a coach is future forward. They're going to help you create goals and work towards those. In the process, they're also going to help you with some mindset stuff that comes up. They're going to help you ride the roller coaster, things like that. If they see a pattern of some emotional stuff that is bigger than coaching, then obviously they're going to refer you out to a therapist to deal with that emotional processing that needs to happen. So there can be coaches for all kinds of things. Like I do transitions. There's coaches that help people that are geared straight for career, or there's, former CEOs that do coaching about running a business. There's coaching for health and weight loss and stopping smoking.
I've seen the self-help, all of the books that
moms
you see in self-help also have coaches that go along with those things. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. There's a real life person that helps you with all that.
Yeah.
Moms starting business, all kinds of stuff, things like that. So tons of resources out there. And I just encourage you to realize that it doesn't mean that you have failed or that you're weak or incompetent because you reach out for help. You are human, and therefore you are designed to do life in connection with other humans. And so you're gonna have to need help. And it may not be like you have to have a therapist or something like that, but I just want you to realize asking for help is one of the most normal human basic things you can do. That's how we were created. And so I just want to normalize that so that it doesn't become something that holds you back from growing fully through your potential and achieving the success that you want.
You use the word normalize, which I think is really important. When we talk about mental health, we help normalize mental health. It's been stigmatized for so long that people feel like, I think asking for help is like a subset of just your overall mental health, right? Like I have to do everything myself. I have to take care of everybody else. I have to be successful for my family. I have to be successful for my reputation or my name in the community, those kind of things. Have to make so much money, have to accomplish so many things by a certain age. And I have to do all of these things and not talk about the struggle that is with anybody. And then everybody's unhappy. And no one's talking about it because everyone thinks that everyone else is judging them, against these stories that we've made up in our own head. And so the normalization, I think, is really important. Like, as an entrepreneur, you're not alone. It feels so lonely sometimes. especially if it's like, you're a sole owner and you can't talk to your employees about your nervousness around making payroll next week. They're your employees. You can't be like, I'm really upset because I might not be able to pay you next Friday anyway. Thanks for listening, Bob. Like, no, have a great day. Like, get back to work. So you have to find, to your point, you have to find coaches, mentors, therapists, even peer support. I was just thinking about this and I realized I have several peer support groups here in Nashville. I'm a member of Brain Trust. There's the entrepreneur organization if your group is big enough, but there's also like C-suite and like, other when I say like higher level, not necessarily, the Chamber of Commerce and things like that are great, but there are other networking groups that are specifically made for people who own businesses, who are entrepreneurs, who have bought something, franchise owners, things like that, where you can sit down with other peers and say, this is the thing that's keeping me up at night. And there's experience sharing that can happen. And there's just support that can happen in a way that normalizes this journey. Right. And it's not just I own a business. It's I am a comprehensive human being and I own a business. And this is how those two things interact. But talking about it is so important because when you talk about it, it lets other people have permission to acknowledge their own feelings. And I am always surprised anytime that I open up and say, this is what I'm feeling upset about, what I'm feeling vulnerable about, this is what's upsetting me. I am always surprised how many people are, one, a little bit surprised that I am sharing that. Like they're not expecting that level of share. And then two, how many go, yeah, me too. Oh my God, I also have that. Or I experienced that last year and I'm going through something else right now. And the camaraderie and the solidarity that happens when you really open up and talk about it is amazing.
Mm-hmm. And the key thing I will remind you, there's 2 points I want to put on this. Number one, remember, every person has mental health. So then that takes me to point number 2. Be very careful of the stories you project onto people. So when you're looking on Instagram or whatever it is on the internet, or even admiring somebody from afar, and you are thinking that everything in their business works great and everything in their life works great, and if like you could just be like them, wouldn't life be great? Hold up, pause a moment. First of all, they have their own mental health. And I can guarantee you, I cannot imagine there's one entrepreneur out there who has not lost sleep over something. There is not one entrepreneur out there who has not questioned themselves at some point, some way, somehow. I just want to encourage you, like if you were talking about, get involved in those peer groups so that it helps stop the stories that you put on to people. And you get to see how normal and how human they are so that you can see how normal and how human you are. And it can take a lot of the pressure off that you're putting on yourself to get everything right, even your emotional and mental health, when you're doing something so... It's scary to start a business. It's scary and exciting. But, there's a lot more emotions than that probably, really. But it can be lots of fun. Yeah. But why not make it easier?
All right,
don't make it harder than it has to be.
You are a normal human. You are a normal human. That's, if you have one takeaway from today, it's that you are a normal human and everything that you're feeling is completely normal and justified. And if you feel like you want to get help with that, there are lots of places for you to get help. So, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this has been it's always helpful for me when I talk to you, but I think that this has been a really amazing snapshot of the journey that is mental health and business ownership, and some really good ways to reframe our mindset and then seek out some additional help so that we can continue being amazingly awesome as entrepreneurs. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This has been an absolute joy, and I wish everybody tons of success.
Thank you so much. Guys, we will see you next time on our Score Tennessee podcast / YouTube channel videos. Thanks for joining us.